Hi, my name's Charles Walker, and this is my first assignment for games programming. This is the game I decided to look at. It's called Cookie Clicker. If you haven't played it before, it's like an idle incremental game where you kind of oh, here's a cookie. Um, you can. It's an idle incremental game where you go from clicking the cookie over and over again to buying different items and buildings that kind of idly make their own cookies, and then you can buy power ups for those different buildings. And those are the three main core components, or sorry, mechanics, I should say. And the target audience is very wide. I mean, if you're looking for specifics, it would be a teenage, young audience, even preteens. But no, with a very low barrier to entry, just a web game and idle incrementer, it's a very, very wide audience. Now, in terms of design and user experience, it's a very basic game. Like, I'll use the base save on the right to kind of signify a new player playing. They kind of realize from the beginning that this big cookie on the left, especially if you hover over it, has little effects and you can click it. That's a very obvious first mechanic that we kind of get introduced to. And then we align to, I guess, how we read from left to right, and then we can kind of get introduced to different power ups and different buildings. But yeah, it's all very handy. And I mean, look at this. Like, it's grayed out if we can't buy it. It's too expensive, but it's green if we can. Um, but yeah, we can see all of our buildings and different items and grandmas here after we've bought them. Obviously, we can't see them anymore because I have 200. But if I buy a cursor here, another cursor shows up. And that's really, really handy because when we buy, there's instant auditory and also visual feedback to the user. And that's very crucial to keep them wanting to play. Now, Cookie Clicker doesn't use a typical game engine. It uses plain HTML, JavaScript, and CSS to build the full experience. And we have to use those different markup languages, styling language, yeah, and a programming language to kind of build those subsystems from the ground up. So our audio and our rendering is done through HTML. So we create different audio tags to kind of say this is this audio, this is this audio, and then we kind of dedicate different sections of our screen for different elements. And usually, like for text and stuff like that, we can use HTML plainly, but for things like canvases, we have to use JavaScript to kind of edit those things, depending on what the player is doing. And that leads to JavaScript being our main scripting language, or our only scripting language, because it allows us to kind of add different things, minus different things, have functions and classes and objects, which our main got like his programmer's main game object uses. And without JavaScript, we can't click this cookie, we can't listen for when the player clicks it, and we can't add the cookies to the total. And each time our game updates, we can't add our cookies. Now, if we want to save our game, it becomes pretty hard because we have all these different buildings, all these different numbers, especially like 135 quadrillion cookies and many buildings. That becomes really hard to think, like, to save and to export. But what the developer decided to do was kind of convert it into a base 64 format, even though it kind of adds to the length of our save. It kind of creates a base standard where there's no special characters apart from plus and minus used, where we can say this is going to be our save type. And I'll find that for you now. It's saved within our local storage of our browser. Oh, sorry, my view is very bad. Where's local storage? Yeah. So if we click on the Cool Math Games one, we can find a key called Cookie Clicker here. So here is our clicker game object. So it's kind of been serialized. Our object's been serialized to this massive string, right? I'll show you. This massive base 64 string. And what this string allows us to do is export any of our game saves to another save without creating initial overhead for like user accounts and cloud storage and stuff like that. So we can email them to our friends, or even if you really wanted to, you could read it out, but I'm not going to. Now, the main learnings I had from kind of analyzing Cookie Clicker was The clicking of the cookie is an extremely satisfying thing to do, and clicking the different buildings is extremely satisfying. Clicking all these different things is very fun, but that's only fun when those core game mechanics like have been refined until they can't be refined anymore. And then we can add all these different things like power-ups and mini games and all this different fluff to our game. But without our core mechanics of our game being good and satisfying and fun for the user, they're never going to play it. Another lesson I've learned is kind of decoupling like updating logic like away from our visuals. So if we update different logic based on the updating visually for the player, so if we update each visual frame, then if we want to increase or decrease our frame rate, everything gets cooked. Everything, because it's all tied to our visual frame rate. So if we want to upgrade it to 60 FPS or 120 or 140, then we'd have to change all these different parts of our code to update based on time instead of just this arbitrary frame rate. Another kind of lesson I've learned is creating cheats for your own game and creating early debugging structures for your game, because I don't want to be playing through a level 10 times over and over again for 10 minutes to try and force one bug to happen to see if an edge case catches. And that kind of means I create hotkeys when I'm building the game to kind of say, I'll start at this level with this weapon. And that makes it really easy to kind of force bugs and test edge cases and that sort of stuff. But overall, I kind of considered how Cookie Clicker became such a fun game for me and my mates. And I guess they kind of didn't try and make the game the full experience and kind of let people experience the game for what it is. And it let players experience it in the way they want to, with their friends, sharing saves, comparing counts. Instead of trying to immerse a player in just the game, it allowed the player to kind of utilize the game to have a further experience around the game.